and welcome to the PreSales Podcast. It's your host and PreSales Collective General Manager, Chris Mabry. Today, I'm speaking with Sarah Idriss, VP of Product at Reprise and a major PreSales advocate. We explore how PreSales and sales teams can better leverage product as a tool to increase efficiency on demos, how she's seeing great sales teams leveraging tools like demo tech to speed up conversations and protect PreSales time, and the relationship between PreSales and product teams. That's always a conversation. She breaks down their process of listening to customer recordings, getting feedback, spending time with customers, a true vision of where product can go and go to market. So grab a seat, get ready to learn from Sarah. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Thank you. Sarah Idriss, welcome to the PreSales Podcast.
Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. You and I met at dinner in New York, and you really lit up the room. You're the VP of Product now, but I want to start this conversation with demos because we're all in pre-sales and we do a lot of demos. You've done a lot of demos too. So what's your hot take? Tell us the worst experience you've ever had on a demo.
Yeah, I wasn't always a VP of Product. Back when I was a baby PM at Insight Squared here in Boston, we had all of our demos run off of a single tenant. So it was just one demo environment in production.
Totally scalable.
Totally scalable. Never went wrong, except this one time that it was a catastrophe. And it was all anonymized data based off of one data set. And then I think it was maybe 2016, there was a pretty major provider that got hit with maybe 3 DDoS attacks in the span of a couple hours, which took down most of the internet, including GitHub. So our teams couldn't even push code or do anything to kind of reroute the experience for our customers, but especially for our sales team. It was like the end of the quarter, end of the month, nearing Christmas time.
Oh my gosh.
I think we had our holiday party that day too, so everyone was a little on edge. So we kind of sprung into action. At the time, I was PMing the data pipeline team, so I managed the demo environment, as many product people in B2B SaaS do. And so we actually went into the closet where one of our senior engineers' dev boxes was. It was run off a server, and we pushed main to it, get it up to date. And then one by one, I went around to every single sales rep's desk and showed them how to log in to Cedric's dev box. And here's how you hide the Django toolbar. And if things go weird, you should talk to a prospect about how funny this is and how cool it is that you can still give a demo, even though their app is probably down now too. So it was pretty chaotic. Definitely not the best prospect experience, but I think everyone was having such a bad day that it was fine. The calls happened, the demos happened. We all had a fun time at the party afterward and prayed it would never happen.
Yeah. Poor Cedric's demo environment is never the same.
It was never the same, but it was so valuable. Thank you, Cedric.
I mean, I can relate with that. I've done so many demos where the demo environment's on the server rack behind you. You wake up in the morning and something's down and you're like, wait a minute, I'm not getting this or I'm not seeing this. And then halfway through your morning, you're physically messing with your demo environment, trying to get it back up and running.
Yep.
So you're VP of Product now. You have all this experience. I want to understand what your journey looks like. There are so many different paths. So I love everybody's unique experience on either they got into pre-sales or through pre-sales went somewhere else. Take us down that route.
Oh man, what a journey. I guess there are degrees in product management now. That was not a thing when I was coming up. So I actually got a little bit of my Eng exposure in school. This is why I love to relate to pre-sales folks, because I like to consider myself a little more nerdy than your average product person. So I actually studied audio engineering and live recording and graduated in a recession, didn't know what to do, moved into CS at a cool software, hardware, hybrid tech startup. And then I think just knew that I really enjoyed working closely with their developers. And, the ability to shape a product and shape an experience was so exciting and so much more exciting for me than just the customer service side. So I kind of gravitated towards the hard problems and ended up working at that previous role at Insight Squared and immediately was entrenched in some of the more technical, exciting work for our customers, new API integrations, and kind of was honing my skills, kind of bridging the gap between what I was hearing from customers and all of my technical expertise and knowledge of databases, et cetera. So they kind of stole me and pretty quickly moved into the product team over there and have been there ever since. I floated around. I decided I wanted to be more of a generalist. I think you have your e-commerce professionals. You've got folks that live in fintech. I've lived everywhere. I've done everything from BI and B2B SaaS to payments for prop tech to analytics for hedge fund managers of oil and gas. So I've kind of lived everywhere. Now I'm in demo land, which sort of brings together all of the experience from before. So it's pretty cool.
What do you like about being a generalist in that sense? How has it helped you in your current role?
It's super helpful because I think in particular with everything moving more to a SaaS model, we're varied customers. We have a base of people doing all of those things. And I think the most important thing for a product person is to understand your customer. I'm actually blown away when I talk to CS leaders and they say that their product doesn't talk to customers. That makes me cringe out of my skin. I'm not sure how they do their jobs or do them well without talking to folks every week. So it really helps to have that exposure across the industry. I think it also helps from a user experience standpoint to see the patterns and how they differ, understand the different security requirements across industries. I don't want to discount the importance of specialization. I think that's something that we talk about in pre-sales a lot. But for me as a product leader, I think I'm able to better guide my team and the broader build org when I have a bigger breadth of experience.
I mean, I'd agree with you, Sarah. What I like about the content you create, the time we've spent together, and I think it lands in your product too, is like you fundamentally understand how product and sales and pre-sales work. And you've got this interesting take. I think we should spend time on this podcast basically talking about or adding clarity to the fundamental benefits of them working together. And I think that you have a unique perspective on that. That's why I was so interested in chatting with you. I think you said it recently is like product is a sales enabler. I'm a real go-to-market nerd and I think about how to go and create really strong partnerships and I create strong sales motions in marketing and post-sales and how to blend the things. I often don't think of how my product team would help me do those things. Break this first part down for us. How can SEs and sellers use product and product people as a tool to accelerate things or enhance customer experiences? Like not just like the product that you take off the truck and put in an environment. Like how does it actually enable?
I think your product teams have such a deep understanding of many different use cases. And I think CS is fantastic for this as well. And they collaborate with product a lot. But every day we are really digging into specific examples we hear from customers. We're listening to sales calls and all of the random nuance that comes up with different prospects. And we're kind of distilling that down for our sellers and for our product marketing team to have a nice package of all of the ways that people can use your product. And I think as a pre-sales professional, as an AE, knowing those stories and really understanding truly the journey of what your customers and prospects are going through is going to make you a better seller. And it's going to help you tailor your pitch for your product and show your product in a way that really resonates with them. Because ultimately, you need to think about who you're selling to. I mean, don't underestimate how hard it is to come to a demo call between 90 million meetings and get pitched an example of forks and knives and other wedding registry items in e-com when actually you're selling something totally different. It takes you out of the experience. You feel like the seller didn't even prepare. They don't even understand you. Why bother? I mean, those things seem minor, but they're pretty big. And I experience it on demos as well.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I get demos and I think one of my favorites recently is somebody reached out to me saying something to the effect that they could like enhance my lawn care business by 70% or something like this. I took a screenshot. I was thinking about creating some content out of that because it was so bad. It was so off.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you really need to understand folks and know what, not just, what they do and what they care about What are the core motivations for their day-to-day? And this is why I love the chance to get together with you and other pre-sales professionals recently, because I was able to take back to my go-to-market team. Like, these are the types of things they were talking about. And these aren't things related to Reprise where I work or even necessarily related to demos. It's more just understand your buyer. Like, these are their things around budget and relationships and time and tech. It was more nuanced than just our day-to-day. And I think that helps shape their understanding in a way that comes across better in a sale.
I love the process you're following. And I think most of our listeners are probably shaking their head thinking, man, Sarah's awesome, but my product team doesn't do that. I wonder if my product team listens to customer demos. I've had so many examples. Kind of like you, I became kind of a generalist. I went from industry to industry, sales teams, engineering teams. I've designed some pretty cool ways to enhance the product and pre-sales relationships. It typically unfolds like SME groups and monthly calls. I don't know if I've ever had my product teams thirsty for listening to sales calls, ever.
They gotta be, man. There's so much gold in there. That's crazy.
Yeah. And with AI tools and tech right now, it's so easy to distill transcripts and get good stuff out of them.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, we use ZoomInfo Chorus internally. I'm all about the transcript. I'm not really listening to those calls unless I see something in the transcript that I want to hear sentiment or really understand the cadence of the prospect and how they felt. There's honestly no excuse. Maybe you get this being a generalist. You don't have another option. When you go into a new industry or a new customer, you have to do that work because you're not a subject matter expert, but you will become one through that. And I think that is maybe one big difference I see between professionals who stick with just one industry versus folks that have floated around. Is the folks that have floated around develop those good habits because they have to succeed.
Yeah, you're going to drown without it.
You'll just be so lost. I didn't know anything about property management when I worked at Buildium. I've been a renter. I live in Boston, so I know how it goes, but I learned a whole other side of the coin, and you really don't get that without listening to calls. And quite frankly, I would go sit in property management offices and I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Very different than B2B SaaS.
But the same process, right? The same process can be applied. And it actually inspires me to build better relationships with product and product owners and product management, because I've had a few conversations recently around product management and product with pre-sales. When I think of the untapped potential between organizations working together, when I think of the fact that most people in sales are not leveraging their product well enough, or the relationship between product teams and pre-sales teams aren't as strong as they need to be, I just immediately imagine all the low-hanging fruit. Things could be so much faster and better if that was fixed.
Totally. I mean, your pre-sales team is your front line, right? They talk to folks every day from so many different industries. I mean, your sales is a funnel. They actually have more information than your CS team because they are seeing, I mean, we all want to win 100% of every deal, but we don't, obviously. So
right.
You are totally missing out, I think, in particular on the white space of your product offering if you aren't super close to your pre-sales team. It's critical. Not a day goes by that someone from our product team doesn't talk to someone from our SE team. And if you're listening to this and you disagree, please let me know as soon as possible. But there's a lot of chatter. They're kind of our closest partners in the company.
It's a bit of a hot take, but I think it's true. I think that the whole industry has changed. If you're on top of the game, you're not missing this opportunity. And it's kind of easy in B2B SaaS. I think a lot of content is focused on these nimble organizations. I'm in a nimble organization. It's real easy to make these changes. But if you're Deloitte, if you're Microsoft, if you are a larger company, it's a totally different game. Making a culture change like this is a long-term process. You have to get buy-in. It's harder. I do have a question for you on priorities. I want to give a lot of go-to-market advice and listen to your experience on how to use product better in sales and go-to-market techniques. But let's just break down, for my own understanding, the priorities. So if it's hard to get your product team to listen to customer calls, my immediate thought is those individuals, they're not rewarded for doing it. They're not tracked on that kind of work. There's not a lot of internal incentive within their organization. So what are the drivers between the two teams? Break that down for me a little bit.
I think at a high level, this can be overlooked because you want to say everybody has the same goal. We're all working towards happy customers, satisfied with the product, solving a problem. But when it comes to like an individual management level, SEs are comped on deals and like their involvement at that side of the funnel. Product teams are measured differently across orgs, but I think the most effective way to measure them is efficacy against the roadmap, but that requires the roadmap also be effective. So I think you can kind of create more alignment there by really incentivizing as part of your management of your PMs, like look at the roadmap. Does it actually satisfy the things that the pre-sales team, the CS team, your executive team strategically are asking for? And if not, try again. Not everyone will always be happy with the exact priority. That's the hardest part of my job, is knowing what I want to do and that I'm actually never satisfied and trying to make those trades. But I think having a clear internal understanding of the North Star and direction for your business, what is strategic and what's a bet versus what are kind of the more obvious, like you said, low-hanging fruit. And you really just need to strike a balance there. Have I added small features for 2 customers before because they were hugely valuable to us and it was going to change the nature of their involvement with us? Absolutely. But I'm also weighing that against major strategic initiatives, sometimes things that people haven't expressly asked for because they're abstract enough that, I mean, that's part of my job, is to have the vision of where we should go. So it's hard, but I think we are actually aligned. We're just not maybe monetized on the same thing, And so you lose sight of that a little bit, but I think there's a huge opportunity to constantly be talking about what the themes are for your business and making sure that the different departments are also working towards those themes, which I think just organically creates more of that alignment. It's working here. I think it's always a journey. Again, I'm never happy. I wrote my parents an apology letter when I got my first B in 7th grade. So I'm not this person to please, but I'm really thrilled with the progression of building this team and seeing how we tackle these problems together.
Yeah, you guys are doing a great job. Do you still have the letter?
I did find it. My best for middle school found hers too, and we had a good laugh. And then we burned them because it's just a classic, like Tiger Mom thing to have done that.
There you go. Yeah,
it's totally self-inflicted.
You could either frame it or you can burn it, 2 different routes. I like the one you took. What I'm hearing in what you say is communication. It is the cornerstone of so much of what we do, is like communicate well, ask questions, approach people with curiosity. If your product team maybe isn't leaning in as hard as, let's say, Sarah is, and you want to know why, or you're frustrated, or you're like, you need to get this feature in, everybody's asking for it, but your product roadmap doesn't have it included, maybe ask questions on what are they tracking? Why are they making that decision? Approach it with curiosity. Maybe that will help build that bridge.
Totally. And you can leverage systems for this. Having centralized feedback management is really helpful for us because I can, as a leader, see the trends of how much are we servicing these very specific requests versus larger strategic initiatives. Our internal teams can see kind of the status of things they've asked for and also how it rolls up into the roadmap. So we're utilizing Pendo. We're super fans of Pendo internally for that.
Oh, cool.
It's been really great. Their holistic platform and the way they've kind of taken over, I think the space for my industry is awesome. So leverage tools and look at closed lost information. I mean, there are so many inputs to a product roadmap. Everyone should be looking at them and sharing kind of the insights that they've learned and explaining why they arrived to certain conclusions for the roadmap, explaining why they chose to not do things, because we do say no. Like, it's like the hardest part of the job. It's also the most important part of the job. So just communicate.
Yeah.
It sounds easy, but
it's not. It takes a culture, and I think you can be a culture carrier by just asking questions. I want to get into what does good look like when you use product as the cornerstone within deals. So let's shift gears. Let's talk revenue. You have like years of experience in not only in the demo space, so you spend a lot of time thinking about how companies go to market with products. And I just want your insight on how are you seeing companies leverage product beyond just the intended use? How do you use it to actually enhance your demo, your operations, and in sales, specifically for AEs and SEs?
So I think we're seeing a lot of customers leverage things that were previously not possible. Back when I was at Insight Squared, we had a system of 300 plus reports that are all hooked into your single Salesforce environment, right? But our CEO really wanted us to tell different stories throughout the demo. And the data's interconnected, man. Like I couldn't make it work. I mean, it was a pretty sick pipeline to anonymize it and use scientists' names and all this other stuff, but I couldn't change the story and the trajectory of the hockey stick of the deals report versus the white space analysis. I just couldn't make them be different effectively without a lot of engineering effort. I think we're seeing people realize the art of the possible now, particularly with demo technology, the ability to have kind of your top of the funnel sales motions where maybe you have guided assets on your website, guided assets that your BDR team is using to send out. I've heard that from a lot of customers that BDRs will often get on a call. Maybe they have a bit of time when they're trying to book a meeting. They have a successful cold call connect and they want to show something, or they want to at least leave something behind, and having kind of those guided assets available for them, or even kind of small, what I call snackable assets available for them, is really valuable. And then we're seeing customers like ServiceNow is a great partner of ours. Their AEs actually use kind of more cordoned off demos almost for their early engagements with sales. They call them lightning demos. So maybe they're specific to a certain feature or area or tailored to a very specific story. And they have a huge library of this stuff available with, all kinds of tagging and other categorization methods. So kind of no matter what direction the call goes in, you know how to find what you're looking for to move it forward.
That's incredible. Here's an interesting tidbit. My last organization, salespeople did not demo because they had no access to anything. And what they used instead was slide decks, right? So they would do the slide deck, then they'd get the SE on, and we were the ones who had the demo environment. And we were in charge of the demo environment. We had the keys to the castle, as you kind of want to. You don't want a lot of people in there making changes. It was the old school, just hosted model. What I created was like a product portfolio demo, which was like this 15-minute walkthrough of our platform. And what's crazy is it took off. It was like the thing everybody wanted to do, but nobody had access. So people were trying to do it with screenshots. And I was just thinking, like, can we just get these people something so that they can click through the product, right? It would speed things up.
Were you able to get there ever?
No, I left before it happened. But we were acquired, and then that product set of 8 products became 42. And, the 600 sellers we had, I forget the number, it was hundreds and hundreds, became thousands, and the initiative just didn't go through. I think they could probably still use it.
Yeah. I mean, sounds like it.
So these lightning demos are like your salespeople have access to these sort of snackable, focused product spaces where they can go in and walk people through stuff.
Totally. And it's helpful too if you have a really in-depth platform, right? Because to your point, previously, can I be honest, I've taken 3 demos like that over the past month. And I am kind of a BDR's worst nightmare. I already know what I want. I've already done my research. I actually just want a demo, but I keep getting these slide decks and I don't want it. But I'm very gracious on those calls. But I think now you're kind of enabling your sellers to be more independent on those early calls, and your prospects are happy about it. Trust me, they're busy. They're getting a message up front, because first impression is everything. They're getting a message that's tailored to them. I mean, we're seeing customers customize even these lightning demos for certain industries with the prospect's logo. Particularly important with e-commerce, their branding colors. I mean, it feels good. It makes you feel super special. If somebody gives me a demo that's blurple and black and all of our branded colors, I feel like a snowflake. I like that. And it seems silly, but it's a big deal. So we see that a lot. And I think what I'm really excited about is now seeing how our customers have grown their demo programs with us. Because to your point, a lot of them did start with slide decks, particularly at a large enterprise. The bar is so low for what they're able to do. They get that tease, they see what's possible, and they've moved on to creating things like, fully functional, isolated demo environments with us so that they actually still don't necessarily need an SE on the call. And now they have their whole product, but it's safe. To your point, if everybody's working in one environment, when you add a record, it's everybody.
It's chaos. What's interesting, Sarah? So I love all the tech behind this, but my thought immediately goes to retention. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking about workload. I'm thinking about SEs principal SEs, and I dealt with this too. I managed a team of strategic SEs, getting pulled into these high-level demo, just show them the product type of calls, and it burns you out. I mean, if you're somewhere for 7 years, you're tired of that demo. And your sales team gets burned out because they're so tired of having to bug you to get on there because they don't have access. I'm just thinking of it as a pure retention tool for pre-sales individuals who are growing out of those just generic demos. Like, save my team, enable that team over there to do that stuff so that it doesn't get to my workload.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, utilize your pre-sales engineers for a much later stage when they're going to get less the demo, more the nuanced questions of, well, how would you configure this pipeline for me? My product is special. Everybody as a buyer, myself included, has these hyper-specific questions. That's where you want your SE. That is their superpower. And I think what we're trying to change at Reprise is make anyone able to give a demo. I mean, we're doing this internally, right? We have guided assets that we use to train our sales team on how to give their live demo in our live demo environment. And so we're utilizing kind of the entire platform to just up-level the entire sales enablement process and sales process by proxy. And now when one of our rockstar SEs, really needs to be called in for some deep dive technical questions or a security questionnaire, they have time.
I know exactly what you mean. And there's probably a lot of examples of this workflow that you have seen in companies. So ServiceNow has been mentioned. Love the people at ServiceNow. They've got these lightning demos. I imagine that by the time it gets to the SE, it's much more vetted than it would have been without it, right? What other workflows are you seeing out there?
I just talked with one of our longtime customers from Cloudera earlier this week, and he was really excited. He was showing me a lot of the stuff that he's been doing on their trade show floor for their big conference this week. And so, we're seeing teams kind of leverage this externally as well, right? So it's show season. Everybody's on a trade show, or we've got some offline demo capabilities. So he's able to really walk around and not worry about the crappy trade show Wi-Fi, which is amazing, and have it on a tablet and use it for lead gen. And so he's really on the product marketing side using it a lot, but he also showed me how they're positioning it internally for their entire sales stack. And he's calling it like the demo factory.
That's so fun.
I mean, this is gold. When I get to see these things, I get so
Yeah, that's gold. That's absolute gold.
Shout out, Phil. You're amazing. He was showing me, they have all these assets on the top of the funnel side, but then for the next stage, there is an incredibly powerful data platform, and you're going to sell to a lot of different people, and you really want to nail the storytelling. So he's created these demo environments that encapsulate the story for specific industries, whether it's, someone in the finance world versus someone in manufacturing bottling. And it's super specific to their use case. And it's so cool to see him reuse his existing assets and just change the data.
Yes.
And it makes it a totally different sale. It was compelling for me. I mean, I've worked in payments before. He showed me his finance example, and I totally got it and was very excited, and somehow immediately understood everything that their complex platform does. And I think that's really where the power is, and where we're seeing our customers really up level is y'all make cool tech. It's hard to sell. It's hard to sell technical, complex products. You need to speak to the economic buyer who's not an engineer.
Yeah.
Super cool example from him. We have a global kind of security firm as a customer and couldn't really demo without attacking themselves. So the fact that they can kind of create these demo environments for a hyper complex situation that's also kind of impossible to simulate safely and just make that available to their sellers is so cool. And then they actually just capture all those assets to use top of the funnel. So they do something in a totally inverse manner, but utilizing the same platform and the same tech. So it's really exciting.
There's a handful of things I love about that. One is titling. So the fact that he calls this the demo factory, I'm so big on titling things because it makes it fun. Go to a theme park. Every area is titled a certain thing because there's a certain experience you're creating there. Use that creatively in your business. We did this as pre-sales leaders in my last organization, and it's a talk I'm giving at Demos Reimagined Virtual, which is around titling your year. So we called it the year of the SE and the year of alignment and scale. So you actually go into your plan with a title and like subtitling so that it actually feels like you're on a mission, right? Yeah. So first of all, hugely love that.
Yeah. He was actually the second customer to say that exact title too. So it might stick. I think we should make it a thing.
Okay. You need a hat that says Demo Factory. I love that a lot. And the other piece is you've mentioned before on demos, like you've just given me the view of what's happening in real life, but it sounds to me like it's sort of the Garden of Eden because it's so enabled. But you said something recently I want to bring back to you, which is a bad demo is a customer enablement session. Explain what that is. Like a bad demo, customer enablement. What do you mean?
Put yourselves in the shoes of someone on a first call. They don't need to know every click to get to what you showed them. You're selling value. You're selling a solution to their problem, to their budget problem, to their tactical problem, to a problem they didn't even know they had. You are absolutely going to lose them if it's just, and then you click here, and then you click here, and then you click here. That's a help article. Your demo is better than that. It should be better than that. You really want to show them maybe the inputs, the outputs, something to tie it with a bow. What do they get out of it? How does that change their process internally or their outcomes? And I am guilty of this, by the way, because I, come from a CS background originally. I'm always trying to learn from our sellers and how to give a better demo. So it happens best with us. You get comfortable with your walkthrough just because you knew how to do the thing. But you actually do have to prepare for your demo. You have to figure out what you want them to walk away with and work backwards.
There's a lot of levels to the game. I talked to somebody recently who is at HubSpot. She's a really great engineer in one of our enablement programs. And she said she was planning for a demo. So she went through the 2 previous demo recordings. She went through the industry's outlook. She looked at the company's forecast. She looked at the company's revenue reports. And I was like, hold on a second. You did that for a demo? Half the time I'm doing demos, I'm just jumping into the demo. And she's like, yeah, I did it on an airplane. And I was thinking, wow. Okay. So that's a dedicated SE.
Yeah.
That's a dedicated person who did a lot of the legwork. We had a generalist and a specialist organization. And one thing that we kind of put all the generalist demos through were if it could have been a video, it should have been. So if it can be a video, it should be a video. If it can be an email to all of us managers who are trying to hold meetings, if it can be an email, it should be an email. If it can go into a different medium, then put it there.
Absolutely. And imagine how many more sellers could do what she was doing if they didn't spend so much time trying to tailor data in an environment that's inflexible to tell the right story. I mean, we want our A's to focus on what they're good at. And I think we as pre-sales professionals, I'm putting myself in that bucket because I just like to nerd out with you guys. We have a different level of value to provide. And so, let us help each other because I am not a fantastic salesperson. I'm learning from them every day, but that's not my core function. So I want them doing that research, knowing the buyer, telling me this is who you're talking to, this is what they do, these are their pain points, and I'll make sure that I can enable them with a system that has all the data they need quickly and whenever they need it.
I think you're kind of leading the charge when it comes to product and pre-sales relationships and go-to-market relationships, really. It's like PLG, but you're not just letting the product speak for itself. I think your approach is just refreshing. I feel refreshed even just hearing it now, and I think people will for years to come. For those listening who think, I love this conversation, I love where Sarah's going, I don't think it's a possibility for me, or I want to get to that point. Mm-hmm. A lot of the leaders I talk to, like we do a lot of leadership conversations here, PreSales Collective, it always comes down to budget. It's like, how do I get budget for my tool? How do I get budget for headcount? How do I prove my value? So you work with people who are spending money. How do they do it?
Oh, there are a few avenues to take here. One thing we see, particularly with a big company that is transforming how they do demos, for example, or other pre-sales processes, I think that this is relevant across the industry, is they start somewhere, they land somewhere. And so thinking about maybe in our case, what areas of the funnel are you looking to target first, and almost presenting like a multi-tiered plan for your demo program, for example, can be really valuable. And we're seeing our customers roll things out that way as well. We've had the benefit of having so many incredible customers at large orgs, small orgs, mid-sized orgs as well, but really are playing in the enterprise space now, that we've been able to kind of craft these best practices of creating these programs at scale. And so we're seeing that mirrored back in how our customers are actually implementing things. Maybe they're starting with guided assets or sales assets for leave behind, or these snackable kind of lightning demos, and then kind of moving into, okay, now I'm ready to build out an entirely fully functional, isolated, safe demo environment. And now what we're seeing with one customer is, all right, I've got the environment. It's awesome. but I'm ready to enable my pre-sales team to customize the data whenever they want as easily as possible. So if I'm selling to like a steel manufacturer, they're going to get hung up on the data in my demo being bottling related. How can I accelerate? And so I'm really excited about some new things we released with our data studio to let you just quickly and easily kind of change it like a spreadsheet. You can just duplicate, make new ones. It's super valuable, I think, to accelerate the pre-sales motion and really give more power to your reps to tell the perfect story without having to ask an engineering team to do it. And so I think the big answer is start somewhere. Start somewhere, have a plan for what you're trying to implement at your organization, what phases you have, how you're going to get there. I think we also see a lot of success with really highlighting the cost of ownership that you have today. Cloud-based companies, anyone with VM services, anything that creates real stuff with high impact in the real world can make this pitch very easily because you're saving potentially millions of dollars on storage costs, on cloud costs, experience costs. I mean, how many people in your company know how to even do that to prepare for the demo? We have a customer that has to spend 5 to 10 hours per prospect and an unknown cost because it's a cloud service just to enable them for a POC.
I went through that at an organization where we shifted to Azure, and it was like our first transition. This was a handful, I might date myself, but like we were like moving to the cloud, you know?
Oh, hey.
We were like, let's go off-prem and let's go cloud-based. Yeah. Let's get these big chunky servers out of your data center. So of course we had to design the product. We designed the product in Azure, and then we had to enable all of our sellers and all of our pre-sales people. I was a pre-sales person at the time in order to do demos. So we had to get certified. We had to know the Azure environment. We designed all of our demo tenants in Azure. We started going to market. And I think within the first quarter, I remember my CEO, who I'm still friends with today, slamming his door in the office. This is like, we were all in office all the time. And I was like, oh no, what happened? And like, he just got the Azure bill. So no joke, we didn't get the ingress and egress costs right. I think we just miscalculated them because it's really easy to miscalculate. It's super complicated. And it basically made like our customer acquisition cost way higher than expected. And then we had to go and retain all those customers. And we had to continue those environments. And it was like the product was very different profit margin than we thought.
Yeah. You know, there's so much customization with all of these cloud services, Azure, GCP, AWS. You can always really fine tune and optimize what you need for different cases. And I love that. But you want to do that for like the backbone of your product.
Yeah.
All of your other costs that come in with demoing or trials or POCs. It just honestly makes the budget lines pretty blurred and leads to, I think, a lot of infighting sometimes that isn't necessary and you're not focused on the right things. So I think optimizing through a program to kind of reduce your total cost pain elsewhere is super valuable. And I think the final tip I have is something that I have learned from our CFO, who is amazing. Find the most boss CFO you know in your network and just pitch them. If you can convince them that your pre-sales team needs X, Y, or Z, then you're good. And it's, I think, a really valuable exercise. We go through that internally with every software renewal, every new purchase. It's really best practice for you to make sure you're spending the company's money effectively. And yeah, I think we're seeing that now, you know, with the way the market has changed. The willy-nilly software budget is not a thing anymore. I mean, people are being very focused on solving specific problems efficiently, usually with platform plays that can do many things at once. You know, they're consolidating tools. So you kind of have to be on your A game. And honestly, you might learn through that exercise that maybe you don't need X, Y, or Z, you know? I mean,
yeah, right.
It depends on your pain, but I think it's a good practice. It works pretty well for us.
That sounds good. It sounds kind of scary to do it with your own CFO first, because you feel like, oh, I don't want them to think I don't know what I'm doing. You know, maybe there's a session here where we can do like pitch the CFO and pre-sales leaders can go in and with their plan and in a friendly way get torn apart and rebuild their plan, right?
Yeah.
Instead of doing it internally.
Absolutely. Unrelated to kind of getting budget, but I think utilize your CFO internally for practicing how you pitch things to your prospects as well. we always like to do the Michelle test, as we call it. She also listens to our sales calls, and she also provides feedback on what's compelling or not compelling to a CFO in this market environment, or a founder in this environment, a board member in this environment. So don't be afraid to leverage your executive team. I think they have a lot of experience as well, and they love getting in the weeds. I mean, we're like so in the clouds day to day with so many other things that the opportunity to talk to our frontline folks for 5 minutes is honestly a joy. It's like the best part of my day.
But you kind of miss it, right? You kind of miss that experience of coming into work and activating on these more tactical things throughout the day, right? Yeah. There's like this sense of longing a little bit. Maybe it's a little bit of rose-colored with glasses because you remember just how hard that can be as well. But yeah, I'll double down on that. Something I've said to pre-sales people, which is, look, budgets are tighter than ever, but you are now so valuable to your C-suite. Your C-suite needs your information more than ever. So now's the time to leverage that. Create a office of the CTO meeting once a month with your head of pre-sales and your individual contributors who really want to be in there, and give them the feedback you're hearing just directly. Take 45 minutes.
Yeah. Our pre-sales team actually summarizes things for our execs every week. They shoot us over reports at the end of every week, just tidbits. It's not a huge lift. It's very casual.
Yeah.
I find it super valuable. I have a special label in my inbox. We always talk about what we've learned. Again, it all comes down to communication and collaboration. It sounds easy. It isn't in practice, but once you get used to it, it becomes kind of your natural way of working. And then if you ever go somewhere else that isn't that way, you tend to influence it to be that way.
I mean, it sounds like you would leave with tons of ammunition on how to grow a better organization. All right, so let's head over to the lightning round. I could do this for another hour, but we got to land the plane somehow. So this is a fun way to get to know a little bit more about you, Sarah. I want to basically ask you a handful of questions. I want you to share with us how to get a hold of you, and then we'll part ways. So the first question of the lightning round is something we've covered quite a bit in this conversation, but what are some of your biggest pet peeves in solution engineering demos?
Number one, always top of mind for me, is forgetting that you're a seller first and going too deep, too technical, too fast before you've actually hooked them to even know what you're talking about. That's definitely a growth opportunity for most pre-sales engineers. If you can nail being the best AE ever and then being the best SE ever, I think you're going to really be a star.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. What drives you more than money?
Experience and knowledge of new things, and kind of that really, oh my God, this is sweet factor that you feel when you're seeing something cool, working on something cool, learning something cool. I'm actually not driven by money. It's a very privileged thing to say, but I get bored easily, so just I like to not be bored.
Yeah, you like to take things apart and have experiences.
Totally.
Cool. What's your favorite movie?
Definitely Wet Hot American Summer. The movie, not the show. The movie is an absolute classic. 10 out of 10, no notes. It's perfect in every way.
What's something that most people don't know about you?
This is like my only answer to this question because I'm not super cool. So at this point, a lot of people might know, but I am actually a classically trained clarinetist. Or I was one when I actually practiced, but I played at Carnegie Hall in college. And
no kidding.
The height of how cool I would ever be. And it's been all downhill from there.
All downhill from there. Well, I've caught you on the downhill slope. I would say it's not too bad, Sarah. You're doing pretty good. You must have been really cool then.
I was medium cool at best, but it was a cool experience.
Hey, medium cool. I'll take that all day. All right. So tell us the best way to get a hold of you.
I joke with all of my customers that I am sporadic at best with LinkedIn. So you can reach out there, but really the best way to reach me is just sarah@reprise.com. I will absolutely answer you quickly if you hit me up with an email.
Wow. That's almost the opposite of most answers. And that's great. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us. I've appreciated this conversation deeply. I think there's a lot of takeaways here that I'll summarize. I'm looking forward to following your journey. I encourage everybody listening to do the same. So until we meet again, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's wonderful. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
I don't know about you, but now I want to send this to all my folks over in product. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey with Sarah. She laid out a real world but incredible example of how our product teams can connect with go-to-market, use customer insights, and help sales teams win deals. Remember, these insights are not just theoretical. They're actionable strategies. You can implement them in your own work. Thank you for tuning in. At PreSales Collective, we're all about connecting, learning, and growing together. We look forward to seeing you next time on the PreSales Podcast.